All right, hello once again. Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. As part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies class, I've been creating a series of video presentations based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. And I'm in the JavaScript section, and I have to apologize because I accidentally hit the escape key. Well, I was in the last lesson, and hitting escape when I'm in Camtasia like this immediately stops this and logs me out. So if you might have even heard me say, doggone it, you may or may not have, I don't know, I didn't even check the tape. But I wanted to do one thing, and that is, again, I'm going to run this one last time and then show you something because I'm not sure exactly where it cut out. So let me go back into here. Everything should be saved. So I've saved my index file, and I'm not even using this other file anymore. I'm just putting everything is in here, and so the file is there. And let me go back and run this one more time. All right. Now I'm still giving me this previous guesses, which I wish it wasn't doing, but that's fine. So 50, too high, 25, too low, 34, too low, 44, too low, 48. There, got it right in like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 guesses. So now if I start a new game, now everything's looking the way it should look. But notice again, if I put in here, I leave it blank, gives me nothing. That's not bad. But if I put in here hello, it gives me NaN, which means I put in a non-numeric guess. Really shouldn't be counting that. If I put in a number that's out of range, like -1, it says too low. And if I put in a number that's above range, like 101, it says too high. So that's actually functioning correctly. But what I like to do is check, and if that happens, just don't accept it. So when we came into here and we did our check guess, all right, I'm going to come in here, and if it equals 1, etc., yeah, it's got all that other good stuff. Okay, now I'm going to come in and do this. Before we even do the check for the correct number, I'm going to say if user guess, I'm going to do it like this. If is NaN, which means if I put something non-numeric in there for my user guess, I'm going to say alert non-numeric guess attempted. Invalid. Try again. Okay, maybe that's not the best thing, but that's what I'm going to say. And I'm going to say return. I don't want to do anything else. All right. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say if now what I could say is basically if the user guess is less than 1, this is totally fine code, or the user guess is greater than 100. All right. And again, I'm going to put in something like this alert, but it'll say something different. And this will say out of range, guess attempted. Invalid, try again, and return. Now, that's totally fine to do it like this, but instead I'm going to come up here and where I've got my constants, I'm going to have a const. And normally, although they're not doing it here, you give constants, you put them in uppercase so they stand out. So I'm going to say here min number, and I'm going to set that equal to 1. And I'm going to have another const that's going to be called max number, and I'm going to set that equal to 100. Again, you don't have to do this. But now I can check it in here. This will say if my guess is less than min number, or my guess is greater than max number, like that. All right, so let's run it again. And again, there's still some problems when you first run this. It's got that 0 in there. So notice I now get out of range guess, try again. All right, so it's got this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say this, hello. And it comes back and it says, non-numeric guess attempted, invalid, try again. Now it did put that in there, and I wish it wouldn't have done that. I'm trying to figure out why it did, because I put a return statement in there. So let's see if we can figure that out. It gave us the alert that said out of range, try again, and return. All right, well, the problem is it still went down here and it did this. We don't want to even do that. All right, let's see. We want to stop execution, basically, is what I'm saying. All right, I don't want that guess to take place, so let's see. Yeah, that's as if everything is in there. So 6 ways to abort execution. False. Well, let's just put it this way. Well, there'll be more work that I have to do on this. Let's see what happens if I put in. So you saw what happened when I put in a guess, and that guess was non-numeric. It is showing that. That's good. But it's still putting NaN in there, which I wish it wasn't doing, but it is. If I put in now a -1, again, out of range guess, try again. All right. And it's still putting in that guess. All right. And if I put in something here, and you'll notice the good news is it's only putting in that guess. It's not accepting any of the other ones. What if I do this? What if I put in 55? And now, what if I come in here and put in hello? See, it's still including that as a guess, which I don't want it to do. So I'm going to have to figure out how to fix that. It's not a hard fix. All right. One part of the code, as it says there, that we need to take another look at is the for loop. All right. I'm going to show you very quickly. All right. And this isn't the right place to do it, but it's the place I'm going to do it. And I'm going to grab their loop. Wasn't there a loop in here? No. But I'm going to put one in. How's that? So I'm going to write some code in here, and I'm going to actually count to 10. So I'm going to say for let what I call LCV for a loop control variable equals 1, LCV less than or equal to 10, plus plus LCV. And I'm going to explain all this in just a minute. Promise. Alert. In fact, we won't even do that. Let result equal nothing. So result plus equals LCV plus. All right. If we run this kind of code, it's gonna literally print out this: 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space, 5 space, 6 space, 7 space, 8 space, 9 space, 10 space. That'll be the output of this. This is result. It's a string. We're saying here start at 1 and while, so this is called our loop control variable. That's why I call it LCV. We're initializing it right here to 1. And we're saying while it is less than 10, add 1 to it. So the way that this works is this runs one time. So it sets it equal to 1. And it says, is that less than or equal to 10? It is. So it does this code right here. So it's going to print out the value of LCV, which is 1, followed by a space. Then it's going to add 1 to LCV, making it 2. And it says, is it still less than 10? It is. So 2 and a space. And it does this 10 times. After it does it the 10th time and it adds 1 to it, it's now 11. And since LCV is no longer less than or equal to 10, it falls out of there. So this is one way to write a loop. I'm going to show you two other ways to write a loop. All right, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, so in other words, this here is result. I want to be able to write this code two other ways. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say two things. First, I'm going to say let result equal nothing, like we just did. And I'm going to say here, let LCV equal 1, while LCV less than or equal to 10. Now I can grab this. All right, so add it to result, but I also need to add 1 to LCV. So I can say plus plus LCV. That will give me the same result as what I had here. So what's the difference? The difference is more code. This line and this line were the same. This line does the initialization of our loop control variable and the testing of our loop control variable and the incrementing. This adds 1 to it. This is like saying LCV equals LCV plus 1. So it does all of it in one line. This does the same thing, but it does it in 1, 2, 3 lines. So what's the advantage? This is known as a counting loop because you need to know exactly how many times you're going through it. This one will work fine as a counting loop, but it'll work even if we don't know how many times we go through it. All right? And then one more time, I'm going to make this nice and small. Why? Because I want to copy this one more time. In fact, I think I'm only going to be able to show two of them here. Another way to write this is to put the word do right there, and then like this. That will again, so I quickly showed you 3 different ways of printing out the numbers 1 to 10 using 3 different loops: a for loop, a while loop, and a do while loop. Now, what they explain in here, and the author is totally correct, this is what they call their starting value. It's our initialization that we're doing right here. It only happens once. This is our condition right here. This is our incrementer. We could have also counted backwards and made it a decrementer by using minus minus there if we wanted to. We're going to go into this in much more depth and breadth of coverage in a later lesson. All right, so it says, now let's look at the loop in our number guessing game. The following can be found inside of the reset. So what is this doing? It's creating a variable containing a list of all the paragraphs that were in there, and it's clearing them all out. So in other words, it's going through every paragraph that we put in our code. All of these things that could potentially have values in them, and it's removing whatever was in there. And rather than doing it as 5 or 6 lines, it's doing it all in one line. Okay. Again, it's a terrific program, yet it's a lot to throw at you right now. Let's put it that way. All right. So a small discussion on objects. This is, I believe, the last thing. Nope. Will be browser objects, and that'll be it for now. Okay. So it says, let's add one more final improvement before we get to our discussion. Add the following line just below the let reset button. Okay. Now, before I add that, let's go back to the program and let's refresh. Right now, where's your cursor? Well, it's right here, isn't it? The line that we're about to add is going to make sure the cursor starts right there. All right. So no biggie, but we're going to do that. And we're told to do that what we want to do is add that right after our let reset button near the top of our JavaScript rather. So right there. So I'm going to put a comment here that says set focus to text box. And that's it. Now, when we run the program again and I refresh, note where the cursor is. All right. So it says it uses the focus method to automatically put the cursor into the input text field as soon as the page loads. All right. It says let's analyze quickly what's going on here in a bit more detail. In JavaScript, most of the items you will manipulate in your code are objects. Don't worry about an object right now, but if you do want to know, as it says, it's a collection of related functionality stored in a single grouping. You can create your own objects, which we will do later, or you can use existing objects, which is what we're doing right now. In this case, it says we created a guest field constant that stores a reference. It's storing whatever we put into that text box. To get the value of that, we use the query selector method, which takes just that piece of information. All right. Now, because text field contains a reference to an input element, it says it now has access to the properties, including the focused property. All right. Finally, they say, let's play with some browser objects a bit. Open up your program in a browser, open up the tools, type guest field into the console. Okay, let's do that. So we've got our program, which is right here. We're going to open it. All right, and we're going to go over to the console, and we're going to type in here guest field. Hit enter, and it shows us that, as it says, it's a text field, what its ID is, and what class we have. And notice if I put my mouse over it here, it'll show it in here. All right. I think that's it for right now. Before we go on, which we will do next, so we've gone, what is JavaScript? A first splash. Before we go into what went wrong, which I believe is next here, let's look. Yep. And we start troubleshooting things that can go wrong. I think I'm going to go back and rewrite this program with you. And I'm going to rewrite it in a much more simplistic way. All right. So we'll come back and take a look at that in just a couple moments.